Please remain seated, come to order. I've said that a few times in my life. The meeting of the Policy Committee is commencing. Roll call, please, Shannon.
Yes, Nace Volvo.
Here.
Ted Bentley.
Here.
Susan Hildred.
Here.
Sarah Spence.
Here.
Taken.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. The minutes for the meeting of May 11, 2026. Does anyone want to move approval of those?
Can prove it. I have no changes.
No changes.
All right, deemed approved.
Right.
Thank you very much. Item 4 on the agenda is the election of a vice chair for the policy committee. Do we have any nominations? Yes?
I'd like to nominate Sarah Spence.
All right, second?
I'll second.
All right, very well. Any others? Hearing none. All in favor of Sarah Spence as being vice chair of the policy committee, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, I'm not opposed.
All right, Sarah, you're vice chair. Congratulations. Welcome. All right, we'll turn then to the member forum. China, you want to read the instructions for the portion of the meeting? Thank you.
So members are welcome to speak during the designated member forum at Rossmore Walnut Creek, RWC board and committee meetings, either in person or via Zoom. Speakers are allowed 2 minutes and must clearly state your full name and Rossmore address before beginning. If speaking on behalf of another member, a signed consent form is required. To speak, members must submit a completed member form slip prior to the start of the forum. Member form slips and guidelines are available at the meetings. For convenience, both the guidelines and forms may also be accessed and printed in advance from the RWC board and committee meetings webpage. Please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded. By attending and participating, including during the open forum, attendees agree to and release RWC from all liability for their voice and/or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purposes without compensation. For more details, including instructions on how to participate, submit written comments, and access printable member forum guidelines and forms, please visit myrossmore.com, Rossmore Governance, and RWC meetings. First, we'll call Norm Lynn. If you'll stand at the table there and state your name and your Rossmore address, you have 2 minutes.
Norm Lynn, 5213 Terra Granada, number 2B. Once upon a time, there was a land where after many years of life and hard work, people from far and near came to dream new dreams. Some, a few, were gifted with a special calling to use horn and drum, string and lute and voice, and through them share their talents with all their friends and neighbors. The leaders of this land created this council, who, using your hearts and wisdom, find ways for all of us to come together and make our dreams come true. Today, you are the keeper of the keys, and you have the opportunity to literally open doors and allow the many makers of music, these creators of joy, to gather and collaborate and bring their gifts to all of our residents. These many talented and gifted musical artists who live in Rossmore need space and time for their unique alchemy. The many hours of practice required to come together, join their talents, and create unforgettable moments of magic which unite us all. Today, you can say yes to the Performers Club of Rossmore, yes to a club where our talented residents meet to practice, yes to many gatherings where all can hear their artistry, yes to those moments when faces light up, hands clap, and feet tap, and hearts become young again. Please say yes to make those dreams come true. Make that once upon a time real today for all in Rossmore. Thank you.
Patricia Sheriff.
I am Patricia Sheriff, 3441 Golden Rain Road, number 4. I speak in support of the Performers Club of Rossmore, now known as Just Friends, and they're becoming a club. The stated reason for not accepting their application is that they duplicate the scope and purpose of other clubs. Just Friends does not duplicate the scope and purpose of other clubs any more than any other musical clubs do here. There are 3 jazz clubs in Rossmore: Big Band, the Dixieland Jazz Group, and Just Friends. The Dixieland Jazz Group has a mixture of instruments quite different from that of Just Friends, and they do not perform. They play to entertain themselves, making them quite different than Just Friends. The Big Band is a large ensemble of more than, I've just been told, of 65 instrumentalists, very different from the 5 instrumentalists and singer in Just Friends. Because of their difference in size, the way that each group plays is quite different from the other. The programs are very different from each other as are pickleball and tennis, played with the same ball and on the same court, but very different games. If Just Friends and Big Band are too much the same to allow them to exist here, then why does Rossmore allow 2 very duplicative singing groups, the Ashmolean Singers and the Community Chorus, singing exactly the same music to appear? Or duplicative orchestras, the Diablo Symphony and the California Symphony, which play exactly the same kind of music? And the Rossmore String Ensemble and the Rossmore String Orchestra also exists here. Rossmore is fortunate to have jazz musicians of the caliber we do who play in Just Friends. We should be encouraging them, not penalizing them. Thank you. And do you want a copy of this? No, that's okay. Okay.
Mark Rossi.
My name's Mark Rossi. I live at 2633 Pine Knoll Drive, and I want to comment on my appeal request regarding the Recreation Department's decision to deny the establishment of the Performers Club of Rossmore. So thank you for the opportunity to appeal this decision. This is a highlight from our purpose goals document that was submitted, so it's not all of it, just a bit. We want to create a club focused specifically on supporting, highlighting, and fostering the many gifted musicians who live here. Our hope is to create a space where musicians can rehearse, collaborate, and ultimately share their music with the Rossmore community. And this is the denial reason that was given. We have met and reviewed your club formation request. Based on our reviews, the proposed group replicates the purpose and activities of 18 existing clubs. So I believe the question of replication or duplication should not be, does another club involve music? It appears to me it's a very broad definition being used if you're saying 18 other clubs already exist like the one we're proposing. The question should be, does another club serve the same purpose and provide the same activities? The proposed Performers Club fills a gap that currently exists in Rossmore. While other organizations may present music, none appear to be organized around supporting, developing, rehearsing, and showcasing resident performers. Club status would also provide access to Rossmore venues at club rates for performances, rehearsals, workshops, and collaborative meetings. For example, while the Redwood Room has served us well, it has become quite crowded. I have some pictures if you want to see that. And the Fireside Room could be an excellent alternative for us, but at standard resident rates, it is prohibitively expensive for ongoing use. So just a general comment, it would be really great going forward for other clubs trying to make the same decision to start a club. An operational definition of a duplicate club would be really helpful. You know, in detail, what does duplication mean? What are examples of duplication and so forth?
I'm sorry, but that's time.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rossi.
Patsy Stubbs.
I'm Patsy Stubbs, and I live at 1533 Knoll Drive, Unit 4. And basically, what I'm going to do is to say that he has just said it all. We go to the concerts. We, people who live in the community, and it is just so delightful to go there and hear them play and sing, and sometimes we even have time where we can get up and do a little dance or whatever. And it just makes the spirit, it's just absolutely wonderful. And we know the people And it's Rossmore, and we just love it. And I thank you. That's all I have to say. I wish you were playing today.
Veronica Baker.
Yeah, my name is Veronica Baker, and I live at 2633 Pine Knoll Drive, Unit 2. And what I most look forward to every month is the performance of Just Friends. And I think out of Just Friends, yeah, the idea of performers of Rossmore came. And I've no idea why the application was denied, because in thorough investigation of the other clubs, there isn't duplication. What performers of Rossmore would offer is quite different. And you only have to come to the performances of Just Friends to experience the joy that these performances give, as Patsy was mentioning. We have such talented musicians here in Rossmore, and the proposed club would give them the forum to share their talents. Just Friends has become so popular that you need to come at least an hour beforehand in order to get a seat with your friends. And I just would ask you to reconsider your decision to deny the application.
Tamar.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tamar Enoch. I live at 2665 Pine Knoll Drive, number 12. It's a wonderful place to live because it's right across from Hillside and because Mark Rossi is my neighbor. I am here to support the application of his club, the Performers Club of Rossmore, to become an official organization. About a year ago, I saw a sign in our laundry room announcing that Mark's band, Just Friends, would be performing a free show in the Redwood Room. I went because I was curious and wanted to support my neighbor. The music was great, but what really delighted me was seeing so many of my neighbors there. For years, I've been smiling, waving, and exchanging brief conversations with these people. Now, for the first time, we were sitting together, enjoying music and connecting in a whole new way. Although there are many wonderful musical performance here, there is just something magical about listening to people you know make music together. Isn't that what Rossmore should be about? That was why I was excited when Mark proposed the Performers Club, which would give other talented musicians here an opportunity to connect, collaborate, and perform in small to medium-sized ensembles like Just Friends. And I was disappointed and confused when I learned that the application was denied because the club supposedly is a duplicate of existing clubs. While Rossmore has clubs that focus on specific instruments or musical styles, there is no venue where smaller ensembles of musicians playing different instruments can connect, rehearse, and perform for the community in the musical genre of their choosing. Mark Rossi is not only an accomplished musician, he's an exceptional community leader. The club he envisions is unique and would be a valuable addition to Rossmore. I respectfully urge the committee to allow the Performers Club to become an official organization. Thank you.
Vicki Beckerman.
Which is great.
Hi, I'm Vicki Beckerman, 2433 Golden Rain Road. I'm here to talk about the policy that says that there must be lifeguards at family swim. There was just a big article in the New York Times that talked about the fact that there is a shortage of lifeguards throughout the entire United States. And as this culture of having difficulty maintaining and finding and hiring lifeguards continues, I really urge the policy committee to re-evaluate this policy and come up with creative solutions where either there can be some kind of waiver that families can sign so that we can allow this really wonderful, vibrant aspect of Rossmore to continue. It is really a beautiful thing to have kids being able to be in the pool with our community. I know that my grandchildren look so forward to it. It is enabled me to meet other people, sometimes other grandparents, but a lot of times just other members of Rossmore were excited to meet kids and to be around other children. And I'm really nervous as you know, Family Swim is counseled week after week after week. And because it's so difficult to hire lifeguards, that this really vibrant, wonderful aspect of my life at Rossmore and for other grandparents and for even people that don't have grandkids is going to be eradicated. Thank you so much.
Marcia McLean.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcia McLean. My address is 2709 Golden Rain Road, number 13. I looked up policy 302, and in policy 302, it lists all the things. I speak in 30-second sound bites, so I'm not going to say much more, but I think if you look over policy 302, that you will grant the performing club status at Rossmore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Journey DeVries.
Journey DeVries, 2633 Pine Knoll Drive, Unit 7. As I've watched this community develop around Just Friends, it seems to me that this club offers seniors a chance to have performance that is not otherwise available to them. As seniors, sometimes we can experience a constricting sense of self as physical or mental limitations dawn as we age. And performance breaks through that and allows us to have an expanding sense of self. And I think that's the nature of Rossmore, is that we're exploring expanding ways that we can exist as seniors. The club allows amateurs to be supported by professionals in a unique way, similar to how the gym does that. You have professionals at the gym who help those of us who are not professional athletes actually use the equipment and get stronger. And this club would do a similar kind of thing. I know several musicians in the band Just Friends have moved to Rossmore. And they moved to Rossmore because of this band and because of the community that Rossmore represents as this group gets together. I think that's an amazing testament to what Rossmore can offer, and in turn, if approved, what this club can offer Rossmore. We could have a whole lot more amazing musicians here. Thank you.
Mary England.
I'm Mary England, 1200 Fairlawn Court, entry 5, number 8. I would like to address the red line version of policy 302, which looks into rewording and revising RWC approved organizations and clubs. The policy 302 red line version now has strike through of references to the word organizations and substitutes the term club. There is no explanation for this substitution. The implication is that the organizations are social and activity groups, which is not necessarily true. So definitions have been included, and that's good. Definition for club could be social and activity group that meets regularly to participate in a shared hobby, sport, or interest. And a definition of organizations could be an organization is a structured and purposeful group of people coordinating their actions to achieve shared goals. So I recommend the policy committee revert to the original language and include organization back in the text. You could even use organization/clubs. Thank you very much.
Roxanne Stalling.
Roxanne Stallings, 3478 Rossmore Parkway, number 3. I am the president of the Ballroom Dance Club. I wonder if the Ballroom Dance Club is one of the 16 that duplicates what Just Friends is wanting to do. I have been president of several different clubs. I have been on the boards of multiple clubs. I've done advisory work for multiple clubs. It is not an easy task to do. Setting up a new club is arduous and very time consuming. Maintaining the annual documentation that Recreation Department now requires is very arduous, and having to go in for appointments and reviewing everything. For the staff, the Recreation Department, to deny a group of musicians who want to be an established club is, I don't have the word for it, an anathema maybe. It's inappropriate. If they're willing to do all this work to become a legitimate club so that they can function and meet and have meeting rooms and put on performances, bless their hearts. We'll all welcome you. We love you. We want to have more music. We want to have more opportunities of communicating with each other and being together as a community. So thank you very much for coming and putting in your appeal here today. Oh, I'm sorry, policy. To say that there are duplication of 16 clubs obviously means that the policy, the way it's written, doesn't have clarification enough to give direction to the Recreation Department on how to discriminate and how to evaluate the club duplicate status concept. So I suggest that the policy committee go back and rewrite that policy and update it. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Barr.
My name is Walter Barr, and I'm at 2101 Pine Knoll, number 16. I've got kind of a rhetorical question you don't have to answer, but I wonder how many of you have heard the group Just Friends? Well, see their answer. And part of the reason I ask this is because the group happens to be made up of what I often call not weekend warriors. Weekend warriors, I think of, are musicians who perhaps owned instruments in college and high school and decided to play when they're retired. The group is made up of people who have played with such extraordinary people as Lena Horne, Ella Fitzgerald, Sammy Davis, Marvin Gaye, Prince, the Doobie Brothers, on and on and on. These are the people who comprise the group of Just Friends. And I think, as I have to admit, I'm one of the members of Good Just Friends. And part of the idea that we brought together with doing this was that we wanted to have a sense of identity to share with this community. And everything we've done so far, by the way, I will tell you, as others have indicated, we've created a huge following. And everything we have done, primarily for the most part, has been for free. We've shared our talents or we have paid for the facilities ourselves out of our own pockets. So what we're hoping to bring is together these talents to share with everyone and to become a part of the identity of Rossmore. We're proud to be residents here. Thank you.
We have one member forum over Zoom. Thank you. Barry Bryan, you have 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name and your Rossmore address. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Barry Bryan, 3874 Terra Granada Drive 3C. In a recent randomized survey of 372 Rossmore residents, Rossmore clubs were the most highly valued feature about living at Rossmore. It is the reason why many people find it desirable to move to Rossmore. This desirability increases demand and increases property values. Anything that tinkers with the successful Rossmore club system does so at great risk to maintaining those high property values. The proposed revisions to Policy 302.0 tinker with that very successful club formula. It makes it easier for staff to deny club recognition, a practice that is increasing in recent years. I urge the policy committee, in the interest of maintaining high property values, to not recommend the revisions in policy 302 to the RWC board. Thank you. That's all.
And that completes our member forum for today.
All right, thank you all for being here, for speaking up. Appreciate it. I'm used to asking follow-up questions, but I can't right now, so we'll move on. The next, number 6 is the chair's report. I don't have anything to report except to say that I'm exercising my discretion to switch 8A and 8B and switch them around. So when we get to the new business, 8B will be the first item discussed, and then the appeal of Performers Club of Rossmore will be the second matter discussed. Moving on then to unfinished business, 7A, we'll continue the discussion about policies relating to facility use, clubs, and guest use. Yeah.
Hello. Welcome, new committee members. So since there has been a 50% changeover in the committee, since we started discussing this policy, what I wanted to do was to begin today with a bit of an overview of 302 and why we're here. Why is it that we're looking at this policy? So what I want to go over basically is a brief overview of why we got here to looking at policies. Talk about some of the different policies that we discovered some alignment issues with when we started doing this room reservations audit. And then we'll get into 302, which is the one that we started review on. So again, just a brief overview for those that are not aware. In 2023 to 2024, we were doing an overhaul of the room reservation system. And that was because of a bunch of challenges that occurred. We had a turnover of tenured staff that had a lot of institutional knowledge on how things were being implemented. A lot of process wasn't written down. A lot of the practices weren't aligning with policy. And so some of the challenges that we were having, we were noting them. And there would be things like finding that the clubs were able to come in and they had history dates and could add dates, but then new clubs couldn't get recurring dates because we were running out of resources. So we were tracking those service level issues, and then we were tracking also with policies where some of the conflicts were, and said, well, when we're done with this, we need to kind of go back and figure out what to do. And so there were some things that we were able to address administratively. And with regard to communications, a lot of that had to do with the intake of the information when clubs wanted to rent space. So we have our new reservation application and conditions. We now have designated representatives for the clubs. They can have up to 4, and they're the ones that can manage the reservations. This was really important because what was happening in the past was for any one reservation, you could have half a dozen people that were saying, no, we wanted to set up this way. We wanted to set up this way. And so our execution was having a lot of failures because of that. It's like the third rail, but we had a lot of issues with fees and consistency of application. We had some people that were never paying fees for the same rooms that others were. So we went through a whole fee process, and there were some really good gains that came out of that too. But we had a lot of no fee, no service rooms, and a new plug and play for some of the baseline support of AV at no cost to clubs. For room availability, this is when we were looking at the use, and we made it so that there could be a cap. So a club could have no more than 4 uses per week. We had some that had as many as 13 uses per week. And again, without able to place new clubs, we were trying to look at the capacity because we weren't able to increase it, and we were turning away a lot of clubs that needed space. And then we also did a time and task study of the custodial unit, and also we're looking at the AV services that were in demand. And the board was able to provide us with an additional custodian and additional AV tech, which has really helped us with providing that service. As I mentioned, as we were going through these processes, there were a lot of policies that were touched that we were seeing kind of conflicts in practice or kind of things that were silent on, maybe that we were implementing, where the authority came, nobody knew. And so we were keeping track of those also to bring back to the policy, and we kind of reviewed those before here today. So with so many policies affected, knowing where to start was a little daunting. So last year, the committee put together this workflow. And right now, we're just focusing on 302, because this is the place to start. As the one that's core to the creation of clubs, it really is kind of the heart. It's almost like the hub of a wheel of policies that impact what clubs are entitled to when they become a club. And also, it has a lot of impact on the facilities once that come up. So one of the key issues, jumping right into this, has to do with the title of the policy itself. So it's called RWC approved organizations. Now, the reason why we referred to went and cleaned up this policy and put things in as clubs is when you look at the policy, the heart of this is how you become a club and what is it that it takes to become a club. But then there are also some other groups that we use some working language, we put some proposed language in the policy for, that are board-sponsored groups and organizations and RWC department-sponsored groups and organizations. So mind you that in a policy, you want real simple, clear administrative policies. So, I mean, I have some clubs that are performing arts groups and are upset that we don't have a performing arts category and whatnot. But to do that would be very much like this minutia of assigning things. Basically, this is a whole body of collections of people with common interests that we just call clubs, whether it's performing arts, a service club, and they form the same, they have the same requirements, and when they want to be able to have the privilege to book rooms at that club rate. We also have a couple of these other stragglers. So the Rossmore Fund is a great example of this wonderful organization. They're not a club. Their board doesn't meet the membership title. Right, but they do an activity which has been, we're not exactly sure where the authority came, but they're kind of this bona fide club that can use our facilities for these club rate rentals. Now, everything that they raise goes back to the community, but it's not defined anywhere. Same thing with some of these other groups that are kind of extensions of the mission of departments and work hand in hand with the different departments. And so there's proposed language to have discussions around really saying it's a club, which is a community of residents that are doing something, and then there are parameters that we need to talk about, which says you can be a club or not. And then we kind of need the criteria for these other two, just to clean it up so we understand what these are and what there aren't. So the next, this is the issue. This is a big issue and a core of discussion. So the next issue, it's very multifaceted. It seems pretty simple to say that with any existing club, you need to have 80% resident membership, which is no more than 20% non-resident. We currently have, yes, so there it is in writing in the policy. So we currently have 8 clubs that have over 20%. I will say last year when we did this, it was twice that number. So for anything that we put in here where we're trying to measure non-residents, there's always a workaround, and you could just like take the non-residents off your roster and submit it to them. A lot of people will put them on personal guest lists or guest lists per function or event and whatnot. And so we really wanted to have a conversation at this committee to really determine what this means. And it goes to this first thing on like, how is this managed? Again, because if you take a look back from last year, we had twice as many. So what happened? The participation didn't go away. You're just working the different systems to get the people through the gate, right? And then there are other groups that are super transparent. We know that there are groups that have these standing guest lists. And so this table puts in the different clubs that have these standing guest lists. And not every one of those people are going to show up at their events, but these are kind of the regular participants that may come to their different functions, which they have pretty much like once a month. And you can see that based on participation, we have a lot of clubs that really welcome in a community greater than Rossmore community here. So that we have some fundamental questions for the committee. So why does this matter? Does it matter? What is the intention? Is it a facility management tool? Is it to restrict activities to be enjoyed mostly by Rossmore residents? And it kind of goes to what makes a club a club. Is it a group that's just sponsoring things for just the greater good of those interested, whether they're Rossmore residents or not, as long as they're created by Rossmore residents, or is it something different? Because we have kind of this, we've broken out of this sphere of really being able to look at the club and just saying, yeah, for the most part, they're mostly Rossmore residents. We have a lot of activity that's sponsored for the good of kind of the greater, I would say, Walnut Creek area. And for the sake of policy and participation, when we were talking about, like if you were to look at the way clubs talk about guests, so there's the resident member, a non-resident member. By our policy, they're a guest. So then a club will say, well, they're a non-resident guest, but they're still a member, like versus being a member. It doesn't matter. All of that is non-resident participation. And so that seemed to be something that was piquing the interest of some of the committee members to take a look at. But we need to pick up at that conversation, and we need a better understanding as staff on the committee's thoughts on guest access before we can really have substantive revision to the policy or not. Bottom line, I think what I would love to take away for the committee to be from staff is the roster really has no correlation to who's in the club. And it's certainly not an indicator of the room use. We have really small clubs that will use the event center on a regular basis due to the function that they present there. So anyway, that's that issue in a nutshell. All right.
Questions, anyone?
I have a couple of more things. The other ones are much, the other ones are much briefer.
We might have to go back to some of the slides.
Yeah, we'll go back to that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about defining club activity, which is relevant. And by the way, we did this presentation before we started here too, so it's coming up again. So the remaining questions about forming clubs and more specifically defining club activities. And then the last, so that's in this column. And then the last column has questions about club use of facilities with regard to the 80-20 ratio. So the first thing has to do with duplicating. So this has been more important as our capacity to grow the number of rooms is becoming really critical. So we've actually been requests from existing clubs that want to come in and they want to do an activity that's off the purpose of what they started their club on. And for the most part, people are understanding because they understand if you've been an active club, you understand that when you come into book rooms, it can be very challenging. We do have clubs that have a lot of these sub-clubs. We have a lot of sub-clubs. So we have clubs that are, I will say they were formed to be some type of a social club, but you may have them doing like table games. You may have them doing more social parties with music at the event center. They do a bunch of little things. And so then we'll have clubs come in and actually see the most popular duplicate that we get requested all the time is additional mahjong groups. And we really don't have the space for those. And like, we just don't have space. Typically when we're saying no for duplication, it's a space issue. And so what's happening is the policies very much are written without a statement about understanding that as staff, we're trying to balance the requests coming in with the availability to place clubs. You know, we had a club that wanted to come in and they wanted to do basically boat racing on the lake. That's not what that lake is used for, right? So we have to decline it. So we decline things for like either not the right type of use or what the request is, for duplicating activities that are already happening. And a lot of times it's space. So with this one, it'll be interesting when we talk about the particular club that's coming up because it seems they're doing something informally where they may have more success finding space informally versus if they try to now find space in a booked room. So, I mean, we're balancing a lot of things that the policy doesn't tell us how to do explicitly. All right, so then we get into the stated purpose of the club. And this, again, is one of those things where it will also help us when clubs say, well, we know if you're formed to do, so it's kind of the stretching exercise club. If they come and they give us something to play mahjong, for lack of a better example, we'll just say, well, you were formed as kind of like this fitness group. So we're not gonna give you another space to do this other thing. The other thing we wanna look at with forming clubs has to do with, and it could be more with a room use and how we book it, but we have a number of clubs that are formed, they're formed to do things which we're not sure it fits into the benefit to the Rossmore community. Let me give you 3 different examples. So we have 4 clubs that use our facilities to raise money for outside organizations. And sometimes there are types, they do fundraisers for, it's kind of a magnanimous thing where they're getting the club rate, but all that money goes out into the community and not really a service that comes back to the community. We have 4 clubs that are kind of in this performance music category. Now, when they actually have their function, that club membership could be 20, suddenly goes up to like 60. So the performers basically are using our space to perform at our club rate. So we have things like that are happening. And then kind of the biggest chunk we have chapters of an organization outside of the community or friends of an organization outside of a community. These fall into like either alumni groups or maybe parishioners or something like outside. And what they do is they form a group here to use our facilities, in some cases to do fundraisers for those institutions that are outside of here. Where some of the alumni clubs, what they'll do is they'll just say, oh, you can use our facilities. It's our alumni benefit we're extending to you. And we'll have none of the alumni chapter here at that particular function for the alumni of a class of 2001, that type of thing. So the activities, really, we want to define them. So even like those chapters, I don't know that they couldn't meet here, but what their activity is, we should probably hone in on that and figure out like what is acceptable and what is not. Whether that is in this policy or in the room reservation one, which is 304, I'm not sure. But these are some of the things that we see where if we see a lot of our non-residents, like the vast majority, there's like a couple of these groups where you'll have one table of Rossmore at the event center and everything else are people from the outside coming in to raise money or to be part of an alumni event. It would be nice if we could, especially a room like that in such demand, we should be preserving that for our residents and our resident clubs to use, the ones that are fully resident. Okay, there's language, we don't have to talk about drop-in stuff because this is something that we're gonna move to it really belongs more with 304. And just to note that we get a request for exceptions to policies all the time, and there's a note in the flow chart that we either should put language within the policy about there are exceptions or there are no exceptions, or we need to create policies around what is the process for an exception. So these are all the things to keep in mind. That's a real quick catch up on where we are, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right.
Or you can absorb it. We have a good agenda. We could absorb it unless you want to jump into 302.
Questions?
I don't have any questions on your presentation, because I've seen that a couple of times in various forms. But are we going to get into 302 now? Is that what, or unless anybody else have a question for her?
302? Yes.
I have one a bit more general question. And this is not in any sense not accepting all the information you're sharing with us. I just want to understand, given the magnitude of clubs in Rossmore, do we have how big of a problem is this?
It's big for the following reason. We have only so many rooms and only so many staff. And we don't have a lot of give on where we can add new use. Unlike other communities like ours, we don't put a cap on how many clubs and how many uses they're entitled to. We just did that with the 4, and it doesn't mean that if you have 2 that you get 2 more. We kind of said we really can't add regular historic uses. So what's happening is, I think the program grew in a way during a time when new facilities were being added and people were thinking bigger with what they could do. But what happened was the use and the request got away from really putting together a solid policy and understanding that this is a finite resource without going to the board, or if the board said, but we want to really maximize it, what would that take? It's very unlike other reservation programs that any of us have come from, and we come from different but similar backgrounds, which we'll look into in 304, where when a club wants to rent, like the event center is a really perfect example. They could say they're going to use the event center all day, and they're not there. They don't come in until 3 o'clock to set up their event, and you could do a turnover in there, right? So we don't have like limitations on use for clubs. Clubs are phenomenal, and we want to do everything we can, but the policy is going to help us organize use. Somehow the policies are written without understanding the resource that they impact. And so that's what we kind of have to balance, which is the discussion about duplication is kind of important, right? So it's been, depending on the type of club, you have to figure out where you would locate them and what the availability is, those types of things.
If I can just add to that real quick, sir. This also helps establish for the staff what the priorities of the committee and ultimately the board and the community are that you want us to operate under. So how do you want us to, excuse me, how do you want us to apply the resource? How do you want us to manage the resource? You know, when you're debating between different types of uses, whether you're looking at internal resident versus non-resident impact on that resource, without pretty specific guidelines, we're trying to interpret some of that, and then that's what gets us in conflict with different organizational groups and how they want to use the facilities. We really need something that we can go and say, here's how it applies, or here how it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then there's an appeal process. But without kind of the real specific guidelines within the policy, which we're finding didn't necessarily align with everything, it makes it difficult to manage the limited resource at hand we're talking about.
I have a question, and
I think Sarah had one.
I'm sorry.
Makes sense.
Are there more clubs now than there used to be? I mean, I've been here 16 years and I've seen clubs come and go.
And I think it's been about the same since I've been here. There could be like a list of 200, but it's about 167, 68 that are active booking rooms.
So do you see that as an increase since you've been here?
It's about the same. It's about the same. And some of them, I mean, very few do they go dormant, if you will. No, they do seem to stay.
They do.
Yeah, if you have.
If you walk around, you'll see benches dedicated to the Luther Burbank Club. Yeah, I mean, they do go there, so.
And as part of the workup for the 302 amendments, did you reach out to the clubs to get their input as to whether they thought these were good paths to take?
I mean, so there's a gentleman by the name of Phil Prasek who was helping out quite a bit, and I know he's very active with the dance groups, and they're kind of an interesting group because they're kind of in one of those. I mean, they feel vulnerable. I think the clubs are phenomenal, but they are one of those groups where, you know, we were talking to them about trying to combine as a club. We were talking to them at one point to combine as one club. We were really trying to manage use. And there are various reasons why they're different and have different needs for where they have their dance and what they do, whatever. And really talking through, and they're really good because they're all a little bit different, but they touch upon a lot of these different issues. So those are the ones that we've been most interactive with. But to have like formal meetings about these, we've gotten a lot of feedback, I would say, during the room reservation process, you know, as we change the process with how those things are working. So it's always a conversation.
How about the section that deals with elimination of the 80% minimum membership percent.
So that came as a, administratively. So I will say that Leanne Hamaji on the committee was talking about, we want to make sure this is something that can be managed administratively. We can't manage that. We literally can't manage that. There's no way for us to so when you look at like the total numbers of people on rosters, it's over 20,000. It's about 21,000, 22,000. If you combine all the names on the rosters that are submitted. For us to be able to verify all the names every time we have a roster, even if we spent the time doing that, we have clubs that are doing these workarounds, right? Because there's other ways to get club members in. So they can get their non-residents to 20% by taking names off of a list, which we saw clubs do. And then they can put them on, people can just invite them in to come in through the gate. So we have these different places for things to slip through the cracks. We can't manage that. So it's kind of this unenforceable threshold.
So why do we have outside members coming in, outside people coming into the clubs? We live in Rossmore. This is Rossmore. The club should be Rossmore clubs. I'm not saying you can't have a guest. I'm just saying, why do we have outside people being part of a club that's inside here? You buy in here, you pay an MTF so that you can have all these facilities to yourself. And then we invite people from the outside to come in and use it for free. That it just doesn't make sense to me. I think, if I think that to me is, and then to your point of how, okay, so the staff can't manage the non-member list. And I get it. That's a lot of, I'd want to hire extra people to do that. But we shouldn't have to do that. We should have it so you have members of the clubs. And then if you have someone from the outside, you can have, I'm not saying not have a guest, but the guest can come in the gate, they can go to your function, and that will be a fee that they'll have to pay to join your function. And it comes back to here because they're utilizing our stuff. And as a lot of people may not attend every meeting, but we have to replace equipment all the time. And I would like, if I'm gonna replace equipment, I would like it to be replaced because it's being used by members of Rossmore, not because I'm getting somebody from Walnut Creek or Danville or something like that coming in, tearing our stuff up, and then I gotta pay for it. So it's just, why can't a club be just members of Rossmore? That's it. No more 20% rule. You showed me a list right there. I was a little bit, I know we're working on that, and I know in here they have a certain amount of time in this rule when we pass it that they gotta come in compliance. But then you're telling me there's no way we can verify compliance. Yeah. So we don't know that some of these could be 50% people from the outside being a part of a club. Yeah. So members only club for Rossmore. That's kind of the way I'm thinking because this is a mess. It's a mess for management. It's a mess for us.
Just real quickly, I completely understand Ted's point of view. I guess what I'm speaking up for, and we're not solving anything here, but having been the president of the largest club in Rossmore, the records that we shared with you were totally accurate. Mm-hmm. So I think there are clubs there that are sharing accurate records. So I just had to say that because
I'm not saying everybody's being shady. No,
and I'm not saying that they can't come in, but I want to pay to play because I want to cover our costs of what it costs to do. We dumped $200,000 into the event center to replace equipment in there. A lot of that event center stuff is not being used by all members. It's being used by a lot of guests. And I'm just saying that guests could help pay for replacing that.
What is the history of the 80-20 rule?
So this is one of those just very philosophical policy questions, and it has kind of bounced around a little bit. There's some that would be in the camp that we've paid our membership transfer fee. This is our home, and we would like to be able to, as part of that, have guests join us and enrich our experience within the community that we're paying for by being able to bring in guests to be either part of a club or just visiting the club, whatever. And then there's some that are on the opposite end of that camp saying that we've paid for the right to be here. These are our amenities. We should have exclusive use of them, and having others come in disrupts our ability to enjoy that freely. So it is a real kind of just debate between those two very important realities. And so they landed at an 80-20. At one point, there was significant debates when, especially this, I think very early on in the pickleball evolution, where limited facilities were available in the old Sierra room at Del Valle, where they kind of went, the board at the time went down the path of all sports related use clubs have to be 100% resident, but still maintain the 80-20 for the rest. And going back then a little bit to what Ann was saying earlier too, is not always that we don't necessarily have the tools to manage, but it's also how restrictive or how intrusive do you want the policies and the practices and the maintenance enforcement to be? Because if we go in as staff and are very rigid with the policy, sometimes that creates a uncomfortable situation as well, because people also want the ability to we don't want to live under all of these restrictions and rules and everything else. We want the freedom to kind of do what we want to do. So it's a lot of balancing act that goes into all of this. So we want policy that could be enforced, policy that's reasonable, policy that kind of guides, which way the community is going at the time. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that's good. Am I right that your goal is to maximize the use of the facilities for our residents? Is that?
What's your goal?
Oh, sure. Well, to me, when I hear this discussion, which is wide-ranging, I think we're trying to refine how the different facilities are used so we could make facilities more available to our residents, different clubs, different activities, and I can get behind that. But then, the devil's always in the details. But if that's what I guess maybe in a way, it's the committee might have a discussion about what our key goal is. But for me, it's maximizing use of facilities.
And I would also say, we have everybody's wanting to move up into the bigger facilities. Right, and so that's also one of those things too, that if we have better policies on, well, this really becomes this, that maybe they'd have to pay a different user fee for it or something like that, right? Or those groups that have chapters, if it was kind of they can like the attendance, if there's we can tell by gate lists typically, unless they put them on their 300 guest list, but usually by gate list, we can tell if an occupancy for room is 200 and you want the setup for 200, but your club is only 75. But we have nothing right now that can say, hey, wait a minute, is that a club activity or is that something different?
Okay.
So I get to talk about the facilities and all that stuff, and this to me is all peripheral stuff to what we're talking about. We've got to figure out how we're going to make this policy work. That'll be beneficial to staff and beneficial to Rossmore, and how it's going to work. So I think we kind of need to come back to this. And if we can figure this out, everything else we can make kind of easier fall into place.
It
if we
really
can
is
figure this out.
a core, it's really
Yeah,
a core.
if we can figure this policy out. So I think room reservations, and all that stuff, that's all interesting and great to have for background, but we gotta stay on this policy here.
But I will say that, again, groups want to be clubs and be recognized as a club. Because when you pay for a room at a club rate, it's not a lot of money. And I know to people here, it seems like a lot of money, but it's really not a lot of money. And so this is why there are these stretches, where it's the room, so the room use is part of this. Because this entitles, clubs become clubs because then it gives them access to our facilities.
But if you had membership limited to residents, and then non-residents could appear as guests, but not members, wouldn't that resolve, this is what Ted pointed out earlier, wouldn't that resolve a lot of these issues?
Yes and no, because these are the things to think about. We have clubs which honestly, they could be like 600 people, they're all Rossmore residents, right? And so when they rent one of the bigger rooms at a club rate, it's pretty much all those club members. You have other groups that can be like 30 people, and they're renting out the event center.
Right.
So if they have and again, you could have like all Rossmore people attending that function, but usually we know by the guest list. Now, not everybody, again, and this is where people also have workarounds, right? We don't always get the guest list. But if you keep doing a function where you're inviting people from the outside, you are occupying this premium space where we can't fit performers a lot of the times because of some other functions. And I'm not saying somebody couldn't use that, but is that really a club? Can a club be formed to like just give their own shows? Do you know what I mean? And occupy that space. Is that a club or is that some other thing? And many of them are charging admission too. So there's lots of details. It's a lot of the use that these groups get once they check the box and then their clubs.
So what you were just saying, so clubs, I'd like to see as residents that are members of the club, okay? If you're a guest of the club, every club that I'm involved in has a guest upcharge. Members get to pay this much, a guest has to pay this much. Whatever the function is, they do that. So some of the people that are guests are residents members in Rossmore, but they have to pay the up fee because they're not members of the club. Right. The way to get around that, join the club. Then you don't have to pay the up fee, So in many ways, some of the clubs will utilize an event, and I'm getting to a point here. You will utilize an event to get members. So there's one club that I'm in, and there's people who never, ever participate in anything in the club except the get-together parties. They don't do anything else with the club, but they just love the parties because they throw a really good party. And I've asked him, I says, how come I never see you? I'm trying not to say the name of the club. How come I never see you when we are doing this? Oh, I'm not gonna do that. It's too much work. I don't want to get involved in anything like that. But I love the parties. So every year I give my money to the club so I can go to their parties. That's all they want to do. So why not? They're a member of the club. So the clubs will be, what I'm trying to say, but if they're a non-member of the club and a member of Rossmore, they have to pay a guest fee. I'm trying to break it down and make it really simple. Clubs want to grow. Certain clubs are small and they want to grow, but some clubs can grow by just being a really fun club. But, fun functions, but maybe what the club actually does, nobody's interested in, but they love the little get-togethers. So they can be club members for that, you know, and then 1 time, 2 times a year that they have these great parties, they get to go to them. So I think that trying to break it down and getting it down to really the basics for everybody all around of what this is, I think it's easier than, and it's gonna be easier in the long run when they get rooms. What better way to encourage you to be able to have bigger, better events than have bigger membership in your club, you know? And the way to do it is you gotta, you know, encourage people on how they're gonna join your club. We do have other clubs where the concept I'm talking about is being done right now with sponsored membership in golf. We have a sponsored membership in golf, but the people who are sponsored members from outside of Rossmore, they pay a whole bunch more than we do to play golf. They can't just come here and get the same rate that I get to play golf. So we do this already and it works out really good for golf, and we make more to help offset the cost of taking care of the golf course. That should be looked at for all of the events that we do. And we just gotta break this down to, and maybe I'm not on the right track. Maybe somebody else has a better idea how to break it down, but we gotta take it back down to basics. We can't start adding in a bunch of peripheral stuff on the sides.
Nace, you asked that question. How would it work if we did what Ted said? All clubs may only have Rossmore residents.
But they can invite as many
Yes,
guests.
I don't care about that as long as they pay.
Right.
So you could do that, but our ability to track who is coming and attending those functions, if you wanted to collect a fee for it, gets really complicated. So if you are a club that has 30 people and you're renting the event center, unless we have actually somebody at the door, or you know exactly how many. So let's say you then have 100 people in attendance, your club is 50. Are all 50 from outside the gate, or 25 from inside the gate, and 25 from outside the gate? So what do we do with that, I guess is the question. Do we say you can only have a function with your club members and there's no guests? Okay, so if we allow guests, under what scenario? I'm not sure how we would actually manage and collect that fee.
If you're a non-resident member, then you're a guest, whether you live here or you're outside. So the fee with the upcharge would be the same.
Who's, that RWC is collecting or that the club is collecting?
Question.
RWC.
Remember, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be speaking out of turn, but remember when we were going through the whole first review of things and there was that $10 fee per person?
So that was existing in there, and that's a
That's
holdover from
related
fitness,
to the
right?
fitness center,
but
where
it was
again, we have a managed facility, so we
Right,
can
I
track
know.
when you're
Yeah.
checking in and we can.
I know, but is there a way, is there any, well, we can't solve it now, but I remember that when that was introduced, I thought, oh, okay, that's a way to kind of assess a charge for non-residents to be involved in activities here.
So we could certainly say that if you have a club and you want to put 20 non-residents on the club, you meet the requirements of 20 residents, but you want to have a club that has 20 non-resident or 20 guests, that those 20 will charge X fee. Our challenge is being able to validate that you only have 20 coming in, or that you're not putting them on your personal guest list, or that I'm not sure how every event, how we track utilization by non-residents at those events.
Well, what you do is, if the members are going to the event, then you have a list of those. And if you have 20 resident members and 80 non-member resident people, then the 80 of those units would be more expensive.
We're not at every event though to do head counts of how many people attend. So your group rents out the Tahoe room and we don't know how many people you actually have set up. We're not there at the door counting how many additional people you have. We have what you put on your form, and we could charge by that. Just know that it's not going to be 100% accurate.
Okay.
So,
And I get where you're going, and I totally agree. If there's a loophole and a way of doing something, probably not every club, but some clubs might try to work it. But if you have a club with 100 people in it and you have an event for 250 at the event center, that's 150 extra people, possibly, maybe even more, because it could be less members and more guests. But the person collecting the money for those knows. That treasurer in that club knows how many guest people paid and how many members paid on every one that they do, because I can tell you right now, I could go to a club and I can break out on the last event and tell you that right now, what the number was of people. We would have to have that treasurer to be able to be accurate with us and give us the difference on the people. You know what I mean? I'm still looking for the money coming in to pay for the stuff.
Consider this, if you are a club of 50 people, then you should be using a room that's adequate for 50 people, period, right? If you are renting a room that accommodates 250 people, 300 people, but you're a club of 50, you're paying a fee for a room rental. So you base your fees not on how many guests are attending, but the room that you're utilizing. That way you're not trying to count heads, you're not trying to count where they're coming from, you're not trying to collect a per person fee. It's strictly, the fee is based on rental of a room. Now I can tell you that when we started talking about a setup fee is $25, we got our heads handed to us, right? If you implement a reasonable fee for a facility such as the event center, it makes operational sense, but those clubs that are gonna have to pay that every time they rent the event center will probably be before you.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's.
Well, so I like that. I like your idea, only for the fact that it would take out a lot of accounting for us. If we had, here's your club count, whatever size party you are doing, you'll have a fee for that room to set up. That fee is picking up our, whatever that extra number would be in guests, right? Instead of them charging the extra money for the guests and keeping it. Because their coffers in many of these clubs is crazy money. And I know that they have ebbs and flows during the course of the year, but on the boards I've been on in the clubs that I'm in, I am surprised at how much extra cash they have on hand and what they're gonna do with it. Yet they're still charging the extra for the guests coming in, which they keep the money. Goes into their coffers. You know, I mean, just you four right here. Have you ever seen it? You've gone to a club, you're going to an event, you see the thing, a guest costs extra, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where does the extra money go?
It goes to the club.
The clubs, and so I just want to make sure I'm not alone here.
No.
That the clubs are making a lot of money, and when I'm looking at some of the things, I wonder how can you possibly sit on so much money? I'm in charge of an event right now. And in the event, they charge $40 to $50 per person on everything that they do. You know how much I charge this time? $5 a person. And we're doing everything we want to do. That's because the coffers had so much money in it from previous events where they didn't know what to do with the money. So I'm just saying that that money needs to go somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily all have to go back to the clubs.
I think we're gonna have to.
But we need to figure out what a club is. We need to figure out what we want to do. I think until we get, are we gonna do 80-20 or are we gonna do 100%? Then we can really filter out everything else. And whichever way it's gonna go, it's gonna go. And then we can filter out what is gonna happen here to make this rule 302.0 correct. And then we can work on what a club is.
So we have a suggestion for the next steps in this debate here. There are so many exceptions in different scenarios that will start to, as you whittle this down, they'll start to pop up. What if we come up with a more or less laundry list of all of these things that we run into when the different clubs are making reservations, whether it's different use of rooms, different setups, different fee structures, resident, non-resident, all of those different things that come up during the course of the 160 something clubs making reservations. And we can literally go through one by one and kind of say, philosophically, where do you want to be on that? And see if we can start to come to some direction. And then we can take those interests that you start to materialize around that and try and put a little bit more cohesive policy.
I suggest that you might consider getting more input from the clubs themselves on these various options.
The challenge with that is your clubs will have very specific interests that don't always align with the overall interest of the full membership. So you'll start to get people to really lobby that we don't want a $25 setup fee because that's going to upset our ability to operate our club. We don't want to limit to 4 because then it's very difficult.
Why not, hear it?
Not that we don't hear it. This is kind of a forum where you're able to hear that, but to actually go out and get that and then bring it back or have workshops just with the clubs is difficult because of very specific interests that they'll bring.
Just to make sure I'm reading everything clearly, what you're recommending in 302, the revised 302, is that the clubs have a minimum membership of 20 RWC residents to form a club, right?
Well, the existing says you need 20 members to form a club. So we were like, why do you need anybody? Why do you need any above that? I mean, we just would throw it out there
I'm
as a
looking
starting
here
point.
and saying that's your starting point.
Yeah.
Just 20 Rossmore residents. Okay, and then I personally think it would be good to see all the vagaries that are going on, but it's hard for me, and this is, I don't mean to ask you to do a whole bunch of work, but when I look at the ways we look at clubs, it's hard for me to come to terms of what's the best way to go without understanding how those definitions might affect fees charged for facilities. And I'm not saying we need to develop that yet because we're not quite there, but to me, they go hand in hand in a way, and it's hard, for me, it's hard to come to a final decision without understanding what implications it might have on fees. Because our fees they're maybe expensive for clubs here, but Ted knows all these clubs are rich, so maybe they're not. I mean, the fees here are extraordinarily low. And I'm just gonna share one quick example and compliment Z. When I called Z because I was interested in possibly having an event that in the past had been a club event that took advantage of the club rates. And I knew in my heart that this shouldn't be a club event. And he said, well, you could reserve as a club, but then you would book it as a private event. And I really appreciated that because I felt like, okay, you know, here's something I want to do and take advantage of our facilities, but I need to pay the private rate. So for me, a lot of this is integrated with how we might revise rates for rooms and for facilities.
All right, do you have enough to?
I think so. I think we'll be able to present some information in a way, because I have a feeling we're going to see patterns really of which facilities it impacts to, which can kind of focus discussion on fees. So.
Why don't we defer
Right.
consideration to the next meeting if you have your information available in a month. But this is an important issue, so give you much reasonable time as you need.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Okay, then, let's, well, we 7B, we have the pickleball facilities. Now, Ann, my sense is that you want to defer this until we get more information from the pickleball club as to whether they intend to use Creekside if it remains available.
I don't know
So
that
we'll
it's their
be,
choice.
so we're going to be bringing that to the planning committee.
Planning committee.
Planning, yeah.
And so we wanted to address the policy based on what we know. And right now it is an active facility with no rules. So that's why it's incorporated in this draft. So it's really not if the pickleball community will use it. It's the plan. It was a function of planning where we we discussed as part of this capital process for this year to evaluate options on use, a continuing use, demoing it, and kind of restoring it. We're just locking the gate. So we're going to present that on Thursday.
Could I say though, in relation to rules and facilities, we have many facilities that are operated under the leadership of a designated club. So it could be ceramics studio is by the ceramics club, the table tennis building by table tennis group. The new pickleball complex it'll have open hours, but it'll be primarily under the leadership of the pickleball club. The courts at Creekside, under what's proposed here and what we would propose, would not be under any specific club. They would just be open courts for the use by pickleball enthusiasts of the community, not a managed facility.
The only, are we talking about the pickleball rules?
Yeah.
The only one, and I'm looking here, on the Creekside section, I didn't see any timeline for 6 in the morning till 9 at night, or, you know, whatever it's gonna be. I mean, I understand that we're not sure what's gonna happen with Creekside, we're still talking about it, but shouldn't there be something, if it is gonna be used, there should be a time in there?
So so I was going to say that language is the same as the tennis courts right now, where it says daylight hours, but if we wanted to restrict that.
Because the Creekside courts are not lit, right?
Yeah.
So it's daylight hours. So during the winter, obviously, it's significantly less. Whereas the new complex, it has lights. So it is important to put a very specific hour of 6 p.m.
So the other question I have is, we're getting, you know, all coming up to the longest day of the year on June 21st or something like that. And so it's gonna be like just a little after 5 in the morning until right around a little after 9 o'clock at night. If we're saying daylight hours, I'm not sure that somebody would like me down there at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting a game going.
Yeah, I mean, you could
I mean, I'm
certainly,
up and I know a bunch of other people I could call, but I don't know that they want to, you know, if we started doing that, I wouldn't want to create a situation. So daylight hours doesn't work.
so you say daylight hours or 8 AM to 6 PM, if you would like.
Yeah, whatever we put in there, I just would like to see some kind of a number.
So do we have existing rules that apply to the Creekside courts now?
Not for pickleball. It's,
It's always
so the
been
exist,
temporary, it's
yeah.
never been a pickleball court, now we have a permanent.
They were tacked on to the tennis rules
Oh, I
way
see.
back when.
Yeah, I didn't, that's before my time.
I had a quick question on the Creekside courts. So acknowledging that they would not be managed by the pickleball club would still have a storage shed and equipment there that's noted in items 5 and 6 under Creekside courts.
So there is a shed there and there was like no, we didn't want to move it in case they needed some ancillary storage. So if they use it, it just has to stay in there, which means it can't stay in that facility, but there's a shed adjacent to the courts.
All right, so the planning committee is gonna work on whether the Creekside's gonna remain available or not. And then let's take it up after that.
Okay.
There's no sense in what ifs now. We got enough what ifs.
So when do we meet again? So this is June. Part of the issue is we are gonna be opening the facility by August
We should-
1st, most likely. And so
If we moved it.
I don't know that the rules would change. Would the rule change even though we're in the decision? You could still keep Creekside in here, but the planning committee could rule some way on the rule on what the use of Creekside would be.
Yeah.
And
if it's
you tell me if I'm wrong on this, and we could still keep going with this. It could be, you know, could you put something in on this based? I don't know if you'd say that like that.
I think it's implicit. If the facility isn't there anymore, we just amend the rules.
Amend this, we block, but I
That
still
could be-
think we could go over this, right? And
Yeah, we can go over that. And I
Yeah.
would think when, like, if we get a version to the board to do the readings, they could adopt it with that caveat, maybe, so it wouldn't have to go back to policy.
Yeah.
If something happens to if the courts were to close.
But I think that I think we could go ahead with this and kind of get it, fairly well wrapped up.
But should we add the 8 to, do you want to specify, should we specify the time?
I think there should be some
I
kind of.
put 8 AM to 6 PM. 8 AM to 6 PM or, because sometimes
That's
the year
under
6
the
PM will be
dollar.
after darkness, so.
Yeah.
Or
until
upon
sunset.
darkness. Okay.
And you'd have to change it because Creekside specific rules 1 talk about daylight hours as opposed to.
That's what she's.
Yeah, that's not,
Yeah, that's
I'm
what she-
redlining it up here.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what we do for the
Specifically
new,
8 to 6,
yeah, we try to
okay,
work it.
good. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, the draft that I have doesn't.
Yeah, that's good. She
Where's
just
Jill?
changed
Like,
it.
8
She just
to
added
6
it.
Yeah,
PM.
she added it. Yeah, there you go, real time.
All right.
Or sunset.
If you start back at the top under the new facility rules and work our way down.
All right.
Is there feedback in relation to
So these reflect changes based on
the last
the
round?
last one.
Yeah.
Where we wanted to talk about the RWC. Basically, we can close the facility if we needed to because of events that are happening.
Yeah.
Other events, like at the event center at Dollar. We talked a little bit about commercial activity and how clubs can allow vendors to provide services for the club. The open play, we did change that to 21 hours. Ted flagged that because I think the current courts are 21 hours for open to the public. And so the pickleball is trying to come up with your schedule. They're gonna post it, and if they were to change it, they would give 2 weeks' notice, but it's gonna be a pretty static schedule. We wanted to put in here where if they expect more than 48 people, so that's basically everybody playing and another group waiting to play.
Right.
That they have to work with Z to reserve, make sure that there's no functions happening. There is a smallish storage facility at the new pickleball facility, and so the pickleball club can store stuff in that, and they can't install any other fixtures around inside or outside, unless Jeff says it's okay. So they were all pretty straightforward. So I think they were minor revisions, which I think we captured from the last meeting.
Is there like a motion on
Yes,
this?
so does
Well,
anyone want
I
to make a motion?
don't have any written down, but I move that the committee recommends to the board adoption of the resident and guest rules for access and use of pickleball facilities.
For a second?
Second.
All right, any further comments?
Just Warren, what do we use for reference to this? Because we don't have a policy number on this. We just have XXX.X. Is that what we're gonna call it for right now?
XXX, she'll give us enough, Deborah will give us enough.
Okay,
I can help with that.
okay, so we
New
don't,
rule.
all right, so that's the only question I had, just so we can kind of make sure we're all within this.
All right, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
All four of us. All right,
Motion carries.
yes. Okay then, thank you.
Thank you.
So that completes unfinished business. We'll turn to new business, and as I said earlier, we're going to begin with the charter and basic parliamentary overview.
If I may pose this consideration, since we have the room until 3, there's nothing after this because the committees only have 1.5 hours. If you would like to spend the next 15-20 minutes talking about the appeal
I do.
instead of the charter, and I can move that to next month.
Okay.
Does that
Let's
work?
continue charter and basic parliamentary overview to our July meeting. And then next go to 8A, which is review the appeal for the Performers Club of Rossmore. Does staff want to say anything more about this?
Yeah, sure. So I've met with Mr. Rossi a few times. We talked about all the different times he wanted to start a club. And so every time that we had a discussion, it unfortunately duplicated multiple clubs, and it was necessary because we had to manage facility usage. So then we provided options, collaborating with other clubs who are already existing to get rooms, in addition to renting rooms as a private reservation, including no fee, no service rooms, or utilizing community rooms. And then, which brings us to here. So, short and simple, but.
Anyone have any questions of staff or comments you'd like to make about this appeal?
I do have a question, but I'm looking for something. So it seems to me, did I see in here the club's bylaws that they would be going by? That's the one I'm trying to look for.
It's an attachment, 8A5.
8A5, oh, bylaws?
That's one of
That
the.
says just jazz.
So are these the other names that they wanted to.
That was the earlier one.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was not,
Have the bylaws changed since the Just Jazz?
Just Jazz is not the most current, candidate, club, proposal that we made. That's an old one, that's from a year ago.
So I don't see any bylaws for any other. Here. I mean, for best friends or.
Oh, you're looking for bylaws for the club?
Yeah.
I think we did initially, but then a year went by and I didn't submit bylaws in my next proposal. It was just kind of, why would we do bylaws if we can't even get the club off the ground without this problem of duplication?
Those bylaws are important to determine whether the club is different or not. So
I think in the goals and proposals that were provided, I think there was enough to differentiate the group and to provide that kind of similarity.
Goals and proposals.
So 8A8 also has bylaws under Music Unites Us Club.
that was the second presentation. And then they moved it to the Performers Club. Correct. We have the
appeal letter.
811. Eight A11 is the club purpose and proposed activities. That's typed out. Yeah, you have it. I have it here as well.
Can I make a comment,
Sure.
please? I'd like to say, with all due respect to staff and their work on this, that the amount of the passion of the comments from our residents, and although I've never heard the group, I know they had a great successful concert recently in the spring under the direction of Patsy. And I know we have many musical groups, but I do think that this group is unique and that it aims to bring professional performers together. And I've just been impressed with the consistent support and the letters we've received and comments we've received on this group. So I personally would hope that we might consider accepting their appeal.
Ted?
So what I'm trying to figure out is, and I kind of got what you said out of it, it's gonna bring professional players together. And a club usually is a group of people with a common interest in something, you know, whatever club it is that you have. I'm struggling here to figure out so do we have 20 musicians in this club? That's what, you know, because that's what's gonna make up the club. We have 20 musicians.
Necessarily, there could be 10 musicians, there could be 20. Right now, there's probably like about 10. But you have allies, you have people who are coming and supporting the group.
So I think in 302.0, it's 20 people to make a club. We're pretty much agreement on that all the way around.
Right.
And I struggled to try and find anything in here, in any of the stuff I looked at. And there's a lot of different files in here, so I'm not sure, but I do remember seeing specific ones that talked about specific players and this person did this and they were with this group and that's true. And every time I counted, I didn't get past 6. So I was trying to figure out how many people are performers in this performer club. Do we have 20 people? Because if we don't have 20 people, we don't have a club.
If I knew that was the directive and that was the issue, I would have been all about that. But the issue was duplication, and I was all about that. That was the reason we were turned down, not because we didn't have 20. If I had 20, I would easily have 20 people on the list right now.
So
But that wasn't-
I'm not in this I'm trying to figure out with my group right here an answer to this question, and you're gonna hear a lot of different things come up while we're trying to decipher what we have going on, okay?
Yes.
All right, so.
Can I clarify something? Just, a lot of times when a club will come, they don't have the 20 yet, they get conditional, and they can get the 20, they can get up to 20, just, you know.
This application, by the way, in 8A10 says that they have a number of resident members of 50.
So but the residence members are, I try to figure that out. They're listeners, they're not performance people. That's, so because it's a club that's trying to promote, I'm not against it. I'm trying to figure it out. It's a club that is for performing artists. We have some other clubs that are performing artists too. The ukulele club has 60-some members in it.
I'm sorry, no you don't, You do not have one professional club. I'm sorry to speak out of turn, but it's like, I think you're missing the point.
Please, you can't talk.
Okay, go ahead.
So the ukulele club has, I think it's got a lot in it. I don't know what the number is, but I know it's close to 60 in it, all performing ukulele, okay? I'm trying to find out, and I'm not talking about the genre, I'm talking about, if we're gonna have the rule, we gotta have 20 performing people, because everything I've read is about the club, and then the byproduct of the club is we play in front of people and they get to listen to my music.
Right.
Well, that's the same thing the byproduct is of the ukulele club. They get to play in front of people and they get to listen to their music, but they have a club of a large number of people. So that's what I'm trying to figure out here.
But if we overruled the decision that was made by the Recreation Department based on its finding of duplicativeness, then it would go back to them to see whether their application complies with the other requirements, which Ann just mentioned, which would be then to come back and we'll approve it, but dependent on you coming up with the total number of proposals. So we can move this forward, is what I'm saying, and have it go back and get it resolved that way, if we feel that the appeal has merit. Yes.
I would like to looking at the list of clubs that supposedly it was a duplicate of. There, like a lot of them, it didn't seem to be a duplicate at all. I'll not be able to bring that up.
If you look at the way the duplication information was written, again, we're trying to manage space. In clubs that produce sound like that, we don't have a lot of space left where we can place them. I think they're in a place, you're in a no fee, no service now, right? Are you a Redwood room? Right, so they've been jamming in a place. If they come to book space, they may not get the same type of, regular time. And again, it's a function of,
If I look at the list of the clubs, and I can't find it now, but there was maybe one club that I thought maybe that was a duplication, the Silvertones Jam Club, but then it said intermediate, it sounded like it was people who were just like having fun playing. They weren't professionals.
Nancy Castile's description of that group as a performing arts group. And it is intermediate level instrumentalists and singers that gather weekly to play music together and sing and jam. But there's no indication that it includes professionals, that it includes the type of music that this group is proposing to play. And there's nothing in here about it interacting with the Rossmore community. I think this is just a jam group that meets and plays among themselves.
That was the only one that seemed to be close.
That's why I took a look at it.
If I might add, in terms of the issue of the 20 members as professionals. What I see, and I'm looking here at one of their appeals, the proposed performers club is designed to support, showcase, and foster their talent by creating opportunities for residents to rehearse, collaborate, and perform within the community. So I've read a lot of this. And my sense is that this is a group of professional musicians who are willing to share their talents in performing, but also mentoring members of the community who might not have the level of talent that they do. So I thought that that was a unique opportunity that they would be offering to residents. That may happen more informally in other clubs, but this is a group of professionals who would be sharing their expertise with interested members. So I personally wouldn't require them to have 20 professional musicians in order to establish the club.
The other thing I'd say about that, looking at the Ceramic Arts Club, I'm sort of comparing it to the Ceramic Arts Club because since I've been here, I've noticed that the fact that we have all these facilities has attracted professional ceramicists. And the quality of the ceramic arts that I've been here for 16 years, it's like over the top now.
Right.
And I suspect the same thing would happen with if you said, oh, we've got a group of professional musicians who jam together, that would encourage other professional musicians to look at Rossmore.
Any more comments? Does anyone want to make a motion to reverse or grant the appeal and send the application back to the Recreation Department for further consideration?
I'll make a motion. So moved.
Your second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you very much. All in favor?
We should have a roll call, I think. Sorry, I don't mean to be.
No, I'm just learning.
Okay, Mace Vogel,
Yes.
Ted Bentley,
Abstain.
Susan Hildred,
Yes.
Sarah Spence.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously approved.
So we'll go back to the Recreation Department for further processing and evaluation.
That's what happens?
What's that?
Okay, all right.
What's that? Let's see, that completes our business for today. Our next meeting will be on Monday, July 13th at 1:30 here in this building's office. And with that, everything else on the calendar, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, staff.